Now, on a previous video, I went to replace my 3-year-old battery for my Tourmaster heated jacket and ran into a very sad story. Nobody that I could find had one in stock, and nobody I could talk to or email had any idea when they were coming back into stock. These batteries, the 2000 milliamp batteries from Tourmaster, are roughly $40. So what I decided to do was, using the same voltage, get some RC car batteries, 7.4. John Pothier walked me through the process and gave me a great way to do this, and what it wound up that I have 4,000 milliamps now. At today's little project in the shop here, we got our batteries. These are radio controlled car batteries, and we're going to try to adapt them to the same voltage, 7.4. We're going to try to adapt them into our Tourmaster jacket. We have to change some wiring, and I don't even know if this is going to work. John Pothier and I have been going back and forth. He figured out that these would be usable, but we still don't know. There may be other constraints on this. When you're dealing with this kind of stuff, there's always something. But anyway, we do have the batteries. So the reason for this whole operation is these batteries, when you go to buy them, now the jacket is 3 years old, you go to any site, even Amazon, they tell you there's a red dot, not currently available. Well, not currently available has been for a long time. So I've given up on trying to get a replacement exact battery, and I've had to move on to step 2. So pretty much anybody that's watched my channel over the years and knows I do enjoy restoring motorcycles, and I do enjoy working on other mechanical things. I really don't like electricity at all. So I always lean on people like John Pothier, in this case, to rescue me from my ignorance. Anyway, he found these on the internet, and that original battery, the original 7.4 battery with 2000 milliamps, what the problem was, you couldn't buy a battery that just plugged in. So we thought, because that battery, by the way, is $40, these batteries, and these are for RC car operation, it comes with the two chargers, and I guess a love letter too, we'll see about that. And 2 batteries and 2 chargers with $25. So we're going to try to adapt these in and see if this works. We're going to know by the end of the day, one way or another. But I assume the first thing has to happen with any of these kind of operations is you have to charge the battery before you can do much. So I'll put these on charge. Oh, here's the chargers here. I'll put these on charge, let them get charged up, have a cup of coffee, and then once I know they're charged, I'll be ready to go. But we do have the equivalent connectors there. Of course, I know I'm going to have to adapt the connector that's in the jacket, and I'm going to have to be very careful that plus is plus, minus is minus, kind of the basic stuff. But again, I don't. If my weakness were known in life, it's electricity. So these come from Amazon. They're 7.4 volts. 2000 milliamps, and the important thing is that's about the size that the battery that goes in the Tourmaster jacket is, and their physical size is similar. The difference is the connectors are not the same. So while I put these on charge right now, I've got to start thinking about how I want to replace these connectors so that this connector will snap into the Tourmaster jacket. And that's the little project today. And then see if these work. So while the battery is charging up, it's the usual. It blinks, and when it's solid green, we're ready to go. And of course, this is the charging wire that comes. It's as simple as can be, and this is the one that's going to be adapted to the jacket. While those batteries are charging up, I have to be sure that I have the correct adapter wires, and which we ordered. And because they go by number, I would assume these are the right ones. And we got plenty of spares, just in case. I have males and females. These were about $7, if I remember right. Yeah, it looks like the right ones. So we're basically ready to, well, we're going to see how this plays out. Basically ready to adapt, making sure we have positive to positive and adapt the, and I got to make sure I got the female or the male or whatever. Yeah, the battery has the male connector. So I need to get a female connector out of the pile and get the jacket over and just test with a continuity tester that I have, positive to positive. Now to check, this is the lead that comes from the jacket. I clipped one wire, and I want to strip some of that wire and find out if this one is positive. Positive is usually inside the barrel, negative outside the barrel. And then I will put a little piece of red tape so I can identify which of these is the positive lead. I don't want to reverse them. And as I've said many times before, electrical work is not what I enjoy the most. I would much rather be painting something, to be honest. Okay, so I have this cut off, and now we'll be able to do a continuity test and just see if it's our lucky day. I don't know if it's going to be our lucky day. Okay, this is negative now, but I will check positive just to make sure I didn't screw the pooch. Okay, so we know for sure this is the positive one. I've marked it with a little piece of red tape. We know this is the positive wire coming out of the battery. So this is going to be pretty easy. I need to make the connections, and I've staggered them so that one isn't, and John Pothier gave me a lot of good tips along the way. Staggering the connections would just make it a lot safer, just in case. We really never want to have these two wires touching while they're hooked to the lithium battery. So this is where the fun begins, is I have to find which connectors, and well, it's going to be fun, believe me. This is not what I do best. This is not like buffing out paint. I've got to figure this all out. I want to hook this up with connectors and shrink wrap tubing. Now a little bit of common sense here, which I don't even, I assume everybody would know. I don't want the battery connected to this while I'm making these connections, just in case something touches something. I want to be totally free. Now these are actually batteries that are made for RC boats and cars, and they're relatively inexpensive. They're well, I'm coming down, they're probably $10 to $12 each. The two were $25, and the one battery that belongs in the jacket was $40. So I don't know. Now, little known, and I didn't notice until recently, the trigger on these guns, if you pull it all the way in, it's low heat. This is a tip from John Pothier. Halfway out, it's high heat. And I decided to solder these because the connectors I have are just too big and bulky. So I'm going to run a nice solder joint on that. Let that cool. Now I want to clean this with, let me get some. And I want to show why I'm doing this. And this is, I have a piece of real tiny heat shrink tubing to start with. And I'll shrink that in place. Then I have one that's going to go over both pieces at the same time. I'm going to make sure that's right in the middle. Now the trick for doing all this, the whole reason for doing this, I didn't want to have big bulky, those big bulky things I have are probably for some other use. And they weren't appropriate for this anyway. Put that away. Okay, now the thing I wanted to do is I want to stagger these joints. Let that cool off. Stagger, I already have the piece of tubing that's going to go over both of them here. I know this is the positive. I've got it, a little piece of tape. I want to cut this so I get an exact joint here. I don't want to have one wire just way sloppy or whatever. So I need to cut that right. Way too much wire came off. Anyway. And I already tested the polarity to make sure that the jacket turned on before I did this, of course. That would go without saying. And I'm sure they make nice little neat connectors, but soldering always works too. And it'll have double shrink wrap tape, and the joints will be staggered at the same time. And that's a good trick, that thing with the gun. I had for years thought you pull the trigger back all the way, and that was maximum heat. Not so. Now I imagine the guys that do RC cars and do model planes, of course, I never had a lot of experience doing this kind of soldering, but two little joints. But I know for sure one thing that's going to matter here is if the jacket turns on. So with these wired up, the last step is just to shrink the heat shrink tubing. And now I have an extra piece of heat shrink tubing here, next size bigger. It should protect it while it's in my pocket. So a couple little tips. I saved the old connector. I don't want to lose all my spares, just in case for some reason I need that for testing or checking or whatever. That's one thing. I think that connector, I put an extra piece of red tape on positive, so if I ever have to take this apart, I will be able to, all the connectors have the positive wire in red. Of course the jacket doesn't, so this would make it easier if I ever have to take this apart. But the joints in here, even if this were to come apart, they're staggered. They're not side by side, and that's a safety thing. Now I've heard, and I ought to pass the information on, that John told me that you really can have a big problem if you use the wrong charger or the wrong, and I'm not familiar with electricity. These batteries need to be handled with care, and if they are overcharged or charged incorrectly, they can catch fire. So, but of course that's true of a motorcycle battery, I guess, too. Anyway, we're ready to snap it together and then do our test. Now I know it might be overkill, but before I test any lithium-ion battery, actually even a motorcycle battery, and hook it up for the first time, there's always a chance something's wrong. Something's backwards. So I always put safety glasses on, because I have heard stories of people with RC planes and RC boats that have had problems with sparks and heat and fires and whatnot. These things are a little dangerous. Okay, both of the batteries are charged now, and now it's a simple case of hooking them up and making sure our soldering joints are good, which I'm assuming they are. Okay, they snap. That's a nice tight fit. We have a spare battery, so in essence what we had 2,000 milliamps, and now what's going to happen is on the ride, I'm assuming an hour and a half, an hour into the ride, I'll just switch batteries. But I can also buy more batteries for $12 a piece instead of $40 a piece. Now, I had thought of other things. You can buy bigger batteries, but these fit in a pocket real nice. And I'm going to take a break to take pictures while I'm videotaping anyway. So now the thing is, I want to see if the jacket's going to catch fire. You got to hold the switch down. The red light comes on, which means everything's cool. And I'm going to take this, lay it out so I can feel if it's getting warm and how long. And then I want to time so I can get a rough idea. Let's just say on a high setting, what's going to happen is, if it lasts an hour, just to make an easy number. Well, what I want to do is keep tracking about 55 minutes into the ride, stop and swap them. But a lot of times what's different about this is I only want to have it for the ride out from the house. By then it's warmed up enough. But it's really nice to take that chill off in the morning. And if it isn't, a simple thing, switch batteries for the ride home or the ride back or whatever. Especially when we go north up to the Ducati place or up in the mountains. It is colder up there than it is down here. So this, I think, is going to be, assuming it's getting warm already. Let's see if it is. Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to just see how long. I can see the light is still glowing in there. I want to see how long. I always want to have it on a high setting anyway. I want to see how long it's going to last on the high setting. Now another thing, if you put 4 sweaters underneath this, it doesn't get warm at all. The outside air gets warm. You got to kind of put one thin. I have a ski turtleneck that I put under that's silk, and you can feel. Oh, that's nice. Oh my God, I can feel it already. How nice that is. And how nice this is. Wow. Now it's only a question of seeing how long these are going to last, and that's, we don't have much choice about that other than knowing the break-off point when we want to switch batteries. Just a little thing to make it easier for me, I put a piece of black tape on one battery so that, for instance, as I'm testing this battery, I'll know which one. I will always start out with the one that doesn't have the black tape as the primary battery. This will be the spare, or in some way know that I can charge them both at the same time, but just knowing which is which, because they do look exactly the same. I think this whole thing went well. I'm just going to wear the jacket till I feel the heat. You could really feel the heat in this. The coils are right here. The coils go up and in the back. Now what's even better is if you have that thin silk shirt underneath this, ooh, it's nice and toasty. But of course you better not go out with that setup and not have a spare battery. Anyway, I hope this is useful information. It does seem like these work. I will report again if I have a problem or if the batteries don't hold a charge or whatever. The original battery, this one here, to be honest about it lasted 3 years, and I used it many times. And I'm afraid maybe at some point in time these will come back in stock. Yeah, well, that'd be nice, but they don't. But again, the price difference, I don't know about that. I really don't know if it's worth it, or if it's worth it even to look for bigger batteries than this, because it won't matter. I can get a bigger battery now because I already have the connectors that match up to these. But anyway, thank you, John Pothia, for your help with this and figuring a lot of this stuff out. Looks to me like it worked. I can't wait to get out on a road and try it. Now, before we end the video, I wanted to dig through the computer and find some pictures of rides we went on and trips we went on and things we did in some really brutally cold weather here. And we're riding right after it snowed, and sometime I look back at this and I wonder, it's a good thing I had a little more self-control now. But there's sometime I just wanted to get out on the open road, and it was crazy that I did, but I did. But I always had, in the back of my mind, well, look how slippery the road must have been there. And we're right around the freezing point. When we used to ride Harriman Park, the lakes would still be snow-covered. And spring would start to come and get up above freezing, and I just have to get out on a ride. Now, over the years, and I wanted to mention this is the point of this, while we're doing a little photo show here, the jackets that plug into the 12-volt battery seem to make a little more, maybe a lot more heat. I don't know. But the problem with me is I have to get on and off the bike 20, 30 times to do the video that I do during pretty much every ride. So they didn't really work out for me as well as I wanted to. I made a video prior to this about the pluses and minuses. I had electric gloves and electric things, shoe soles and things that didn't really work out. They were good. They got me through the winter, but they were really inconvenient. Now, I find the battery one to be a lot more convenient, a little bit less heat. But now that I've got 4,000 milliamps instead of 2, and basically, if you boil it down, it's 1/4 the price, that I can afford to really leave that jacket on high for every moment that I'm out on a ride. And when I did the test that I showed at the end of this video, it lasted the same amount of time as the other battery, the one that's $40. So I don't know. I know the batteries have to be 7.4, and I know if you get too big of a battery, you need a special charger. So, but these seem to be, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with them. And the good news is I can get on and off the bike conveniently. And I still have the electric gloves to keep my hands warm. Even though I have thought about getting grip warmers, but it's just too convenient having the electric gloves. And I can keep them in the pack that I keep on with the radar detector. So I hope there's been some usable information in this. And if you go out on a cold day and you don't need an electric jacket, you must be a lot younger than me. because as the years have gone by, it's been more and more difficult dealing with the cold, but I still like to get out. There's just something about riding in the cold that's invigorating. So if you're new to our channel, we do try to post up something motorcycle related pretty much every day. We do try to ride almost the whole year long. I shouldn't say we probably miss a month, maybe 2 months in a winter if we have a bad winter. And the roads get just too slippery and ridiculous to ride on. But we do have that passion to ride every day. I wish I lived in a part of the world where I was guaranteed to ride every day, but I have to make the most out of living where I live and go to war with the MT-09 I already have. And what I try to do on my video channel is share useful information and share the rides that we go on and time with our friends. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you share it with your friends. And of course, I hope, most of all, that we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again for watching.